Almost 10 years after launching the original Vauxhall Frontera, they've brought a second generation to an even more crowded 4x4 market. But one quick glance at the new Frontera and it looks very similar to the first. Actually, that's quite deliberate. The Vauxhall Frontera owners liked the way it was, in the same way that the Discovery owners didn't want their new Land Rover Discovery to have any radical changes. But the main area to concern with the Vauxhall Frontera always was reliability. Well, that improved with the new model. More on that later. But the general look, it's much curvier. You've got new headlights at the front, and in fact, every panel is different. Well, the tailgate opens nice and wide to get your stuff in. It's a reasonably large boot area. We've got our video equipment in there today, although it should fit in there being lightweight video equipment. One good thing about the Frontera area, you've got plenty of little hooks and straps to secure your load. Extremely important if you are going off-roading and not just standing still in a supermarket car park like we are today. But there again, you're more likely to see these in a supermarket car park, aren't you? But that's a different story. Closing it, something of worry here. Notice that, the wobble. Should we do that again? Action replay. We noticed this at the launch. This is basically the cover for the spare wheel. Now, it's not going to come off or anything, but it does harm the perceived image of quality. It's a shame. Now, inside there's definitely been some work done to improve things. Now, the whole of the dash area has been neatened up considerably, certainly very inoffensive, and it seems quite ergonomic at first glance. The plastic's a little bit hard, although I must admit that the velour cloth used on both the seats and on the door panels, it's good quality stuff. Well, sitting ahead of you, the instrument cluster is logical. To the right of the steering wheel is this neat cluster of switches to control all your lights and the heated wing mirrors. And to the left is this switch, which activates the four-wheel drive, and that illuminates a little symbol on the instrument cluster. And to the left of this, the heater controls. But why are they up here when the stereo and navigation controls are down at the bottom? Which one are you more likely to use? I think somehow the radio, and I think the radio should be up high so that your eyes are not taken off the road. The left knob switches on and controls volume, and the right, depending on what mode you're in, operates the sat-nav, radio tuner and screen display. And if you want to change your CD, you push this little tiny little button here, you move the face of your cover, and there it is. Now, it took our researcher 10 minutes to find the CD player. Thank you very much, Phillips. Well, between the seats are a couple of nice sturdy cup holders and a cubby under your armrest as well. And in the back you get cup holders outside both rear seats, and up top you get a large sunroof, front and rear, to add some light to this otherwise rather dark and gloomy cabin. Now, since this is a test about the urban environment, we're not going to worry about the mud plugging capabilities. We're actually going to look at the turning circle, getting out of an all-important supermarket car park space, and it's not bad at all. The actual turning circle of the Frontera is flipping marvellous. And the advantage of this shape, you can see all four corners. It's great. Although those large C-posts behind do create rather a bit of a blind spot. I don't understand why they're still so thick if there isn't actually the removable roof anymore, which is a bit of a pain. The huge wing mirrors are also a boon, and they actually fold away when not needed as well. The gear change has a very long throw, and it doesn't like to be rushed at all. But there again, if you are after a sports car, well, you shouldn't be after a 4x4 in the first place, should you? Now, moving off, you get no complaints whatsoever from the revised petrol 2.2 engine. It is a willing performer, but there's actually no hiding. It's pulling a fair old weight when it comes down to it. And especially when accelerating hard, the old slow gear change becomes very irritating then. The gearing is actually quite high, 80 miles an hour, 3,500 revs fifth gear. Not bad, I suppose, but on the motorway, boy, it doesn't accelerate very well at all. It's extremely pedestrian. It does kind of bug you, but there again, this is meant to be a 4x4 off-roader and not a motorway cruiser. Everything is a compromise with every car you buy. Well, one of the claims of this new Frontera that it is meant to be 50% quieter. I'm not quite sure how they work that figure out, but our experience does show a definite improvement in the cabin interior sound. And we hear a muted tyre hum, and the engine only becomes rough and raucous at high revs. Otherwise, it is quite good. Well, from first impressions, I must say that Vauxhall have put a lot of effort into improving the Frontera's build quality. It's quite pleasant to drive. They've certainly rounded off some of the nasty square corners, but it still looks very attractive. Now, Vauxhall are putting the Frontera smack between the Land Rover Discovery and the Freelander. But this time round, the market is much more crowded, it is much more competitive, and it will only survive if it can dispel those images from the Mark I Frontera of those nasty reliability problems. We wish it well.